Hello and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and this is the show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. Well, the truth is we hope that we can get some change, that's for sure. On the show today we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session. Jerry Martin won't be here today, he's out of town and won't be able to make it to the show, but we'll talk a little bit about what's going on with Jerry. And we'll also do our regular update on the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Project van and the quest for a community-based low barrier access cannabis store. Another truth is that we've been lied to for a long time, that we really can't trust our governments, and history is told by the winners, so you really never know whether they're telling the truth either. And there's a lot of lies in our world, and we certainly have to navigate our way through all of that. Another truth is that I don't like living in an insane world, and I don't like stupidity, and that just kind of drives me nuts and causes me to do things I wouldn't otherwise do, like eventually end up with my own pot TV show so I can talk about how stupid and insane things are. And they really are stupid and insane, especially with the subject of what our show is about, and that's all about the actual THC, you know, tetrahydrocannabinol, that amazing little molecule that exists inside of a plant that provides human beings with euphoria. It's an interesting thing. Cannabis itself has all sorts of other cannabinoids, and as it turns out upon studying it, those cannabinoids actually mimic chemistry that our own body creates as part of our own, and guess what they named it, endocannabinoid system, because that's what they found, is that these cannabinoids that people are ingesting from the cannabis plant, although they're also available in nature in small quantities in other plants in our world, that they actually mimic these same chemicals that our body uses as part of the system that they named the endocannabinoid system. And that system within the human body is unlike the others in that it doesn't serve only one function. It's not cardiovascular, it's not circulatory for blood, it's actually the system that is overseeing all of the other systems in the human body. So the job of the endocannabinoid system is to maintain balance and homeostasis, and when there's some sort of trauma that happens, pain, then that's how the body deals with it. If there's inflammation, if there's a cut, the body creates and sends out these chemicals through the bloodstream to interact with the cells and deal with those types of things. And it turns out that those chemicals that our body uses are exact mimics of chemistry found on the cannabis plant in the form of cannabinoids. So that's one thing pretty amazing about this plant that we've spent so much time trying to free, but there's a whole lot more than that. The use of this plant by human beings goes back millennia, as far back as we can find. I mean, there's clothing that was made out of the hemp fabrics. Hemp fabric, by the way, is one of the most durable and absorbent and amazing fabrics that we have in our world. One of the best sources of textiles for sure. A great source of money for making paper with, or paper for making money with, because it lasts so long and it's so durable. My producer Neil was just telling me about another broadcast that we had where it came out that in trying to break horses in the early settling of North America, the way to get the horses, to use as I guess a bridle in their the bit and bridle, that the hemp stock was a much better choice to use than was leather even. It goes back to when the explorers were exploring to find new countries and new lands, and the ships that were rigged with cannabis as sails and ropes and all the rest of it. The sealants that they used, it was used as paint. The use of cannabis for medicine goes back thousands and thousands of years, and probably longer than recorded history that human beings have been interacting with this plant on a medical basis. Probably the early discoverers of controlling fire would have done that by gathering up hemp flowers and cannabis flowers, because they're covered in these crystals that ignite quite quickly. And so I would imagine that as they're starting to make fire, they're probably using hemp buds and cannabis buds in doing that. And of course then inhaling the magical vapors of the cannabis plant and having those types of experiences, which I think had a large part in leading to the intelligence and the creativity of human beings in general. I mean, we have such a long, storied relationship with this plant in so many ways. It got farmers through the winter as they would gather the hemp seeds during harvest. package them up, put them into galvanized buckets, break them into the oils, put them in the hot sun, let it dry into hemp seed cakes, and then they could feed their livestock to get through to the next season. Our dependence on cannabis goes back a very long way. It was a mandatory crop in the United States for the early settlers that were forming there because it was just so valuable. And the reason that it got demonized and lied about and prohibited with the criminal law was not because it turned out that it was dangerous and addictive and causing people to be violent and insane. It was quite the opposite. This plant is so valuable and so useful, beneficial in so many ways, can replace other things that can easily have patents on them, that it became a target and an enemy of the corporate elite and also those that wanted to control the minds of human beings. And that's a big part about what this is all about as well, is that that little molecule of THC provides euphoria. It's a wonderful thing that nature did there, because human beings and all the other animals on this planet got to be what they are by the ingestion of plants, basically. If not plants, animals that ate plants. But it's all about plants as our source of fuel, but also our source of what our bodies use to build itself and to make us what we are. And our human body has this amazing symbiotic relationship with the cannabis plant. As I said, the cannabinoids on the plant mimic those same cannabinoids that are part of our endocannabinoid system. So that in nature, when you find yourself not feeling well, and you turn to the herbs that have been passed down through generations of knowledge, and cannabis is there as an alternative to try to help you feel better, well, nature wonderfully provided THC as part of the formula for healing you, not just the anti-inflammatory benefit and the analgesic benefit of the CBD cannabinoid or many of the other cannabinoids that have definite health benefits, but THC in particular. The benefit of THC is the euphoria. And when you're sick, when you're not feeling good, when you've got an infection, I'm talking about people thousands of years ago, and they can use the cannabis plant to help with the healing of that wound. And it also provides euphoria and a feeling of well-being and a feeling of who cares about my problems right now. And that's a very valuable thing to have going on when you're injured, when you're not feeling well. Cannabis medicine, as opposite of Buckley's medicine, it doesn't taste horrible. It actually is quite nice all the way around, and it gives you a very nice feeling as well. So it's just ludicrous. It's insane. It's stupid as can be that we've put up with this. I mean, it makes all kinds of sense from an economic point of view when you look at the reasons behind prohibition. I mean, this is about big money. It's always been about big money. It's also been about putting down minorities, and it's also been about controlling human beings' thoughts. And like I say, it's dumb on us, stupid on us as human beings for allowing the hemp to be pulled over our eyes to the point where we couldn't see what they were doing and realize that what they're doing is profiting on us, monopolizing that one commodity in nature that is most valuable to us. And so this is why there was cannabis prohibition. This is why there was all the lies and the demonization of this plant, was to protect that prohibition. And the prohibition, like I said, was not about protecting people from a substance making people violent and insane. It was not about saving people from themselves because they just might want to ingest this horrible drug and turn into villains. It wasn't about any of that at all. It's always been about the actual value of cannabis and how it can be controlled for its money on the one hand, but also how it can be prohibited to protect people from getting the value of cannabis in that spiritual awakening, that understanding of right and wrong that comes along with the use of cannabis. Really, all we have in this world is right and wrong, and we're all trying to do the right thing. That's what it's all about. Individual humans are just trying to do the right thing for themselves. Now, in some cases, that results in the right thing for you is the wrong thing for someone else, and that's where ethics come in and responsibilities come in. But as far as what the right thing to do for you as a human being goes, well, that's up to you, and you get to decide. But you don't get to decide on things that will harm other people. You don't get to steal from other people and take things that don't belong to you or do things like that. But other than that, you get to do what you believe is right. And most of us are just trying to do that. We're trying to live our lives, many of us with limitations, many of us with obstacles, just trying to live our lives. Many of us need some help along the way. We all come into this world ignorant and innocent and not knowing anything about anything, and everything we do know at this point, we've had to learn along the way. And most of us aren't there yet as far as learning all the things that we need to know to help us in our lives, to help us live better lives and be better people. We are all works in progress. We're all just trying our best to do that. But unfortunately, in this world, it's not quite as easy as that. Human beings will be taken advantage of if possible. That's just the way it goes. When you're born here, you come into this world naive, innocent, unknowing about anything. And if your guardians and parents don't do a good job of helping you understand stuff, well, you can be a target for people that are less than ethical and want to take advantage of you. Maybe it's just nature doing what nature does. Maybe it's just the strong survive and the weak don't. But, you know, that's what's going on, is we're all just wanting to live lives and feel good and be as good as we can for most of us. And part of the stuff that we're up against are these individuals and these groups that will exploit us and will take advantage of us. And that's just life. That's just the way it is. So, like I say, hopefully by the time you're sent out into the world to be your own human being, your guardians, your caregivers, your parents, or whoever it was that raised you has given you the right information to be able to navigate through a world where people will take advantage of you if they can. So we should all have that going on to some degree. And that's why I say stupid of us to have allowed this situation to get to where it is right now. Stupid of us and stupid of the generations that came before us that gave up their security and their freedom, or pardon me, their freedom for some sense of security to a group that decided that, well, we can scare them and then we can tell them that we can save them. And then if they give up their rights and give up their property and give us what we want, then we'll save them. And so this has been going on over and over all throughout history. The kings and the queens and the pharaohs and the dictators and the tyrants and all of those people are just trying to help us and trying to save us from problems that they have created themselves in many cases. And really what they want is your time and your energy and the money that you can generate for them, the property that you may have already. This is life. This is what it's all about. And the insanity has gone so far that these powers that be came upon this plant that human beings had been benefiting from and using for thousands of years and decided that they could fool everybody because they could control people's minds through the media and other ways. And they demonized this most valuable of commodities in our environment, told all kinds of lies about it, scared everybody about it, managed to push through legislation making it a criminal offense to even have possession of it. Even if you're found having it growing on your property, even if you didn't even plant it there, you can be facing jail. And I know there's a warrior, more than one, but one in particular who I know of who's fighting that battle right now. Just wild pot plants found on the property. And they're facing jail time and property seizure and other things. And that's the insanity of it. That's why it's driving me so nuts and has for so long. This is just insane. How did it ever happen? I wasn't here. I don't really know. But somehow through media moguls like William Randolph Hearst, who owned most of the big newspapers, especially in the United States, where they started to demonize cannabis, they started to blame it for violent crimes, they found all sorts of ways to get the public to allow them to make it a prohibited substance. They'd already gotten away with it with alcohol, which was strange and crazy as it was. Because, the United States is built on the foundations of freedom and tolerance and that individuals have the power. They have this type of rhetoric. We find that these truths are self-evident. Self-evident. They don't need much investigation. That all human beings are created equal. I don't know if I agree with that. Certainly not equal opportunities for everybody. But that's how we should be treated. And endowed through that creation with the unalienable right. A right that can't be taken away. That's not given by any human being, but that it's yours when you're born. You have an unalienable right to your own pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. these truths are found to be self-evident. And that's what the foundation of things are built on. Yet somehow, in the United States, and then up in here in Canada, because we just follow suit with Big Brother, they managed to convince people that it was okay to prohibit the sale of alcohol in a free country. They certainly didn't try to prohibit people from possessing alcohol. That wasn't prohibited. You weren't a criminal if you were found in possession of alcohol. You could have alcohol if you could find it and make it yourself maybe and drink it. And that's kind of what happened is people started making their own alcohol all over the place, and they kind of lost track of that with that. I mean, the history of it is much more convoluted than all of this. The point is that free people somehow allowed themselves to have their ability to choose to have a glass of wine or a drink of beer or even harder alcohol, that they allowed that to be taken away from them because of a bunch of fear-mongering and rhetoric by people that really should never have had that ability and that right to do that in the first place, but they managed to do it. And then when that was getting out of control, because like I say, many people were brewing their own alcohol all over the place, there was illegal stills. The truth is that alcohol prohibition wasn't really about protecting people from the evils of alcohol consumption as much as it was trying to protect the Rockefellers' monopoly on fossil fuels. Look into that one. And they were losing that monopoly with all these illegal stills. And most of the people that were brewing alcohol, on their hobby farm or on their farm or wherever they were brewing it, weren't brewing it to drink for the most part. They were brewing it so they could drive their vehicles with it. And so the government was starting to lose that monopoly that they tried to put in place. And so they ended alcohol prohibition on the auspices and under the illusion that, it was to try to keep kids from showing up drunk at school and stop people from dying of bathtub gin and stop gangsters from shooting each other in the streets. But really what it was is they wanted to continue to control the purchase of fuel. And so they allowed for the sale of alcohol for drinking purposes. And they took control of all of that through their government control of alcohol. And so people having already gotten used to being prohibited from drinking alcohol sort of went along with it when the government came out and said, well, now we have this new menace, this marijuana, this crazy drug from Mexico that's driving people insane and violent. And so to protect your children and to protect everybody, we're going to make that illegal now. And so that's what they did. And that was all lies, and that was all just based on putting down minorities and controlling people's thoughts and not allowing this commodity into the marketplace to compete with other textiles and other sources of all kinds of things that cannabis is great for making. So the insanity continued, and it continued until the 60s when they did commissions into it, the Schaefer Commission in the States, the Dane Commission here in Canada, and they found out through that no, cannabis doesn't make people violent and insane at all. It makes them happy, hungry, calm, and so it shouldn't, and they both of these studies said there shouldn't be using the criminal law. Oh, there you go, 419, you got a minute left of me. They shouldn't be using the criminal law to protect people with cannabis because it's not causing all of these things. But they just changed gears. They came back and said, well, it might not make people violent and insane, but it makes them lazy and stupid. And so they continued prohibition and continued using the criminal law and our police resources and millions, billions of dollars, over $1 trillion globally, all to try to keep out of our possession a plant because really it's so valuable to us because it allows us to think clearly about some things they don't want us thinking clearly about. It allows us to produce our own medicine in our own backyard or even now in our basement because we've learned how to grow indoors. But you can grow cannabis that'll help supplement your endocannabinoid system for just about anything you might need it for. And they don't want you to know that either. And this war has been going on for so long that it has become one of the most stupid and insane things in our world. And here we are every week bashing away at it. Maybe you're bored with it. I don't know. I'm kind of bored with it. I'd like it to stop. But until it does stop, I can't stop talking about it. It's my job, and it's what needs to happen. Is everybody needs to realize that our rights have been taken from us, and this is the biggest example of that for sure. Nobody who wants to feel better by inhaling a few magical vapors from a medicinal herb is a criminal in a free country. If you're free, that's not going to be happening. So think about it. Anyway, it's 4:20, and that means 8 out of 10 Glenn is here. He slides in real quick and easy. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I'm getting good at this.
I know, almost 2 years now. Holy crap.
Yeah.
It's getting close. I think episode 87 now.
So then -2 for me because I missed 2. Sure. So 85.
Wow. I missed 2 too.
And then a whole 2 years would be what, 104?
100, yeah.
104.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's if you don't get a couple of weeks vacation off per year, which most people should get. Shouldn't
Well,
they?
when I go on vacation, I like to do StreamYard with you guys or something, right? Or Messenger or something. Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a vacation one day. I'm not sure.
Well, one day it'll get better. Yeah.
Maybe I'll let you co-host one day and I'll just take the day off.
Sure. I've done that before. I'd love to do that. So, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. What do you got going on today?
Mom's 76th birthday.
Your mom said, I wished her a happy birthday.
I know you on the post there.
Violet, happy birthday,
Violet
Violet.
Holmberg, yeah.
2 years in a row, we get to wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for creating this guy, because without you, there wouldn't be him. And so, we're happy about that.
She was one of my thankful posts one time. Yeah, without her, I wouldn't be writing these posts.
That's 100% true. So thank you very much, Violet. It's good to have somebody share these sessions with me.
Yeah, she's watching us right now.
So last year we sang you happy birthday on the show, but it wasn't really your birthday, but this year it is.
Yes, today.
So how about that, eh?
Yeah, you feel like singing?
I don't know if you're a singer or not. Are you a singer?
Well, I can match you.
You can match me.
I got that voice.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Violet. And everyone else whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday to you. And you, and you, and you, and you.
Love you, Mom.
Yeah, I love you, Mom.
Yeah. You get to see your mom every Monday, don't you?
I do. Mom,
This
Monday
man
is
takes
Mom
a
Day.
day off from the CSP to see his mom on Mondays.
Well, CSP takes a break on Mondays anyway.
I know, but it just seems to be convenient, and it's
I would have to find a day to go see my mom every week anyway. I wouldn't miss that now. She's getting older.
Yeah.
I'm very, very blessed to be able to go and see her for sure. In these times, I understand there's a lot of people that can't go and see their mom.
Mine's in Ontario.
Yeah, and people can't even travel and stuff. So, I'm very sad for those people that can't see their moms. I'm very blessed to be able to see mine.
Yeah.
But it is getting harder and harder to visit her, and more frustrating as she's losing what little bit of memory she has. She still recognizes me and what have you, but she doesn't think I've been to visit her in years.
Oh, because of her, I remember.
She doesn't know why she's where she is, and she doesn't think she should be staying there.
Wow.
She doesn't understand what happened to her car, and she wanted to know about that yesterday again. And even though I will tell her all of these things, the next week when I see her, it'll be the same questions and what have you. So it's sad to see that deterioration of people.
Yeah.
But it's really good that I at least get to go and visit her for sure.
My mom had a brain tumor about 30 years ago, and she's had to go back and have another CAT scan because they think that it's come back. And we're going to find out on Thursday. They're going to give her the results on Thursday. So if you guys can send out some positive energy and thoughts that this tumor is not back, then she'll live a lot longer than where she is right now.
30 years since having something like that happen is a wonderful thing.
Yes, but she's been having really bad migraines. CBD does help her really bad migraines, and she's very thankful that I introduced her to that.
Right.
But it's still to the point where it's really hard on her. So some days she can't think.
I'm not going to ask her age because that's not nice.
Oh, that's all right. I already told you. 76.
Yeah, I know how old.
Yeah. She don't mind.
No.
No.
Good on you, Violet, for making it to 76 there. He's the one who said it, not me.
Yeah. No, she don't mind. She's proud of her age.
Yeah, well.
So, that's what's new today, anyways.
I hope you have a wonderful birthday and many, many more.
Yeah. Oh, my sister's right there. But they're
Is
right
it
now.
just you and your sister?
You just me and my sister, yeah.
See?
And then the grandkids and all that stuff.
Right.
My sister's got 4 kids too, so.
Right.
And they're all older, and they're not like Isabel.
Yeah, Isabel's the baby, eh?
Yeah, Isabel's the young one.
Although growing up so fast.
Yeah, I know. Hey, she's gonna be 10 soon in February. Yeah.
And she's doing well with the Taekwondo.
Yep, she's almost got her black belt. She's on her second last belt.
That'll serve her very well.
It will, and it already is. She's got student recognition at school. She's does leadership classes with the Taekwondo and everything like that. So, and when she's actually 10, she can actually go into a Taekwondo leadership class that they'll teach her and give her a blue uniform, and so she'll be a bit of a leader. So that's great.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took martial arts. It really impacted my life in a very positive way.
Yeah.
I was off to a pretty bad start there, and I had to fight a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was all because of me and my personality. I wasn't that big, so you get picked on. That's just the way it is.
Skinny kid.
And my cousin made the National Hockey League, mainly as a fighter.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people wanted a piece of me. And then when I started...
Because of your brother?
No, my cousin.
Cousin, sorry, because your cousin?
Yeah.
Wow.
And especially when I started playing hockey. When I started playing hockey, and I made the rep team, so I got my name on the back, which is, you get that on the rep team, and I wore the same number as Keith did, number 3 for Chicago Blackhawks. And I became a target pretty quick of all the other teams that knew who I was and knew who he was, and so they wanted to have a feather in their cap. So I had to fight a lot.
Wow.
And I did fight a lot. And I didn't like bullies growing up, and I fought a lot of bullies just because I didn't like bullies.
Good.
But growing up in Surrey, back in those days, East Vancouver before that, I was on a bit of a violent path for sure.
Yeah.
And then, I started smoking weed at 15, and that helped.
Yeah.
Playing hockey helped get me out of a different group of people. But cannabis really helped me with the violence side of things, And martial arts was huge for that.
Yeah.
Because...
Gave you the confidence.
Well, it wasn't just confidence. It was... When I was fighting people... Yeah. I wanted to give them a fat lip.
Yeah.
I wanted to give them a black eye.
You were fighting on a vengeance.
But I never really wanted to, hurt them in serious ways. Yeah. And in the martial arts, they train you, or we got trained in Kung Fu, especially after that first initial set of lessons where they move you into personal one-on-one training. Yeah. And a lot of it was getting really good and automatic at snapping bones, and using people's weight to break their bones against them. And then I found when I got face-to-face in an actual conflict, I didn't want to really break anybody's bone. That wasn't ever the point. The point was, a flat lip or something,
Do stuff without hurting them, right? Get out of their way, make them, when they go for you, make them trip over your leg or something,
I think I had one fight after I got pretty good at that stuff, and I wasn't happy with myself through the whole thing. And after that, I just wasn't really someone who would fight, but I would sure break up fights. Yeah. And I did a lot of that. Yeah. And then, in hockey, I did a lot of that. And again, in hockey later on, when I came back to hockey, I got out of hockey in high school. Yeah. When I injured my ankle, just walking down a set of stairs, I twisted over on an ankle where I'd already stretched that ligament a number of times. And then I snapped it. And so that put me out for a while. Wow. I didn't get to complete the season in grade 12. And after high school, I'd already been working with my dad as a carpenter with his company. And I just went straight to work once the injury was healed. Yeah. I didn't really think much about hockey for a few years even, And then I built a house for myself and my wife, and I was working on that house, and there was other houses being built in this newly forming subdivision, and I'd gotten to know the person across the lane, and there's the wife out, in her backyard, and I said, hey, where's Corey? And she said, oh, he's playing hockey.
Oh, there you go. No.
Hockey?
Oh, jeez.
I used to play hockey, I still got my equipment over here, so...
What if it still fits?
Yeah. Next time I talked to Corey, we talked about it, and he said, yeah, you can come and play with us. It was a team made up of Safeway employees and Block Brother real estate people. Nice. But they let me play, even though I wasn't part of either of those groups. And so, I got back into playing hockey again.
Well, that's good.
But, there again, that was like a beer league.
A beer league, nice.
And
you don't drink, right?
Wow. No, I don't drink. I didn't drink. You call it a beer league, but it wasn't because you had to be drinking beer.
Oh, I thought you went for beers after.
There were people that went for beers after. I'm sure there were people that went for beers before. Personally, I definitely smoked weed before.
Yes.
And after.
Yeah.
So and there was lots of scuffles from time to time, and I became the enforcer for our team. But I considered myself the enforcer against fighting. Yes. And I'd get in there in between two guys going to fight. I'd take the biggest one on our team or his team. It didn't matter which. Yeah. I would take them out of that equation real immediately and say, hey, buddy, look, man, we don't do this here. Yeah. This is not about fighting here. Nobody's getting paid to play. Yeah. I got to go to work in the morning like most of my teammates here. Yeah. I can't be going to work with black eyes and broken legs. So, let's not harm each other out here. So anyway, that became my task there too. Wow. So yeah.
I can see a little bit Isabel going that way too, being more of a breaker-upper than a starter.
And I wanted to be. I so much did not want to fight people just because I didn't want to hurt anybody, mostly. that I just became like the nicest of guys.
I'm going to are today.
I am, because it's a good way to be. But yeah, I'm more than willing to apologize for anything, even if it's not really my fault. I'll take some responsibility for it, just if it calms the thing down for sure, because whatever.
Yeah.
And with the herb school, we opened a dispensary, the second dispensary in Vancouver, 17 years ago now. One block over from where we were broadcasting from today, right at Main and Hastings. And what was I going to tell you about the herb school to do with martial arts and fighting? And being a nice guy.
You didn't even smoke any weed, I did.
I smoked weed. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
You did.
That's what the 420 session worked.
It'll come back
on a completely different note. When I opened the herb school like 17 years ago, and we were doing our thing there, I was also working with cannabis culture at the time then as well. Pot TV was going hard at it back in those days. Greg Williams, I love you, Greg. Rest in peace, brother.
Peace and pot.
Peace and pot. He was manager of Pot TV back in those days, and they had a show there called The Contest.
Yep.
And the contest was Mark Emery and Kirk Tusaw and Chris Bennett, and I forget who the other one was. They would sit there and smoke weed. And the weed that they would smoke would be weed that was sent in from anywhere. They would accept weed from anywhere. And then they would test it and smoke it amongst them. So they all had a different way of smoking.
Yeah.
And then they, like you and I, that's what we do. That's what we do on this show every time.
Yeah.
It's 420. We light the joints.
Yeah.
We start talking.
Yeah.
And then the talk gets a little animated.
Yeah,
we get laughing about stuff.
Yeah.
And we forget our train of thought.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, yeah, right.
How
did we like that weed?
Yeah.
Like what do we think of that? And
Yeah.
then they could think about the effects that it had on them over those 10 or 15 minutes.
Bring back that show.
That was a really good show. I really like that show. They're fun to watch because you can certainly see how cannabis affects the moods and affects the conversation.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, how I've been using a sativa to change my grumpy moods and stuff like that. So if you're having a grumpy Monday or something like that, bring in a bunch of sativas.
I never had grumpy Mondays.
No. Well, you got a day off.
Oh no, Glenn.
If you woke up on a Monday and knew you had a day off,
you know
that doesn't make anybody.
I already know the answer because I saw your post about it.
Yeah.
But when you're having a grumpy Monday or whatever, you start a thankful post.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I
do.
And then other people tell you things, and then now you're not so grumpy. You know what I mean?
No.
That's what I do every day with myself.
Yeah.
I count my blessings regularly. I'm so in awe of where I am as a human being, and that I am a human being.
Me too.
Living in this
not
particular
that
time.
Just where I am.
This is an amazing time in history to be alive.
Yes.
This is an amazing place in the world to be alive.
Yeah.
We are so blessed in so many ways. And so, that's how I feel about things. And I live in that sort of constant attitude of gratitude that, this is how I feel. And so I don't usually get grumpy. Bad things happen. To me, it's a lesson. There's lots of lessons in all of this stuff. Whatever it costs, well, that's the cost of the seminar. Hey, don't let that guy go away, and you'll tell Sal to give him some more product to make some more of this amazing stuff out of. That's a good segue, eh?
Yeah.
Well, do you want to slow down?
No. I just want you to tell him that we have something before he leaves. That either he's going to stay till the end of the show.
Let Sal know.
Or Sal can give it to him that time. So.
Don't let him go.
This is Nature's Black Gold.
RSO.
Yep.
Nice. Use it every night. It also can help prevent maybe a little bit of
that
C word.
Yeah. It does, and that's
they're saying that the cannabinoids attach to the same receptor as the C does, and then if their cannabinoids are there, then the COVID cannot.
Well, you mean the C as in COVID?
Yes,
not the C as in cancer.
No.
Because this for sure helps many people with many different forms of that C word, cancer, in many ways. But also for COVID, they're finding out. You said that too.
That there's a certain receptor in your lungs that catches cannabinoids. And also the same thing for COVID. It seems to go after the same receptor.
Sorry, what would you like?
Sal, I want to give him some of those bags that are in there. Sure. Maybe 4 or 5 of them or something like that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And then apparently,
And then what we're doing is, I'll tell you what we're doing, because it is on the show now, it's been introduced into the show, is that here at the Cannabis Substitution Program, we get shake, we purchase shake, and then we turn that shake into this, and then our bakers turn this into cookies and brownies and all manner of things, as well as using it for, just straight RSO.
And you use Reclaim too.
And yeah, anything that has like high potency, high amounts of those cannabinoids,
for you,
that's what we take here.
Wow.
So that's a beautiful thing that we're
That's
able to
100
do.
grams right there.
And this is out of stuff that used to be thrown away.
Yeah.
The growers back 15 years ago or something like that, they would have all this leaf and they weren't looking for leaf, they were looking for buds.
Yeah.
So they'd take the leaf and they'd have to find creative ways of getting rid of it. And they'd throw it into dumpsters or out in the middle of the woods and lots of
You used to
different
drive
things.
down roads and see a garbage bag and you'd pull over just to see if that was a bag of leaves.
Yeah, and sometimes you find buds in those bags.
Robert Palmer used to do that. Not the famous Robert Palmer, but my friend Robert Palmer.
Yeah, the famous Robert Palmer, he didn't have to go
He didn't
looking
have to
for
do
garbage
that.
bags.
No, but my friend in Mission, Robert Palmer, he used to
The other Robert Palmer, he had the very best buds.
He was a lucky guy to find those stuff. And then there always would be little buds that are still on there. So he'd get leaf and little buds, right? But yeah, he was one of those.
And
people.
now, oh man, it's hard to find. Everybody knows that the leaves also have the cannabinoids on them, and you can extract those cannabinoids and you can make stuff like that with it. So it's a little harder to get these days. But that's the value of this plant, right? Mm-hmm. Is that it provides this medicine that's not hard to obtain, and it's so incredibly beneficial to people, especially with serious medical
Way better
issues.
than opioids for your pain, right there, because it helps your pain system. Way better than that energy C that you can take or something, because this helps your immune system also. Anything that's man-made, I really don't trust too much anymore. But this is man-grown, and then it is man-made, I guess, still, because we have to break it down, right? But there's no extra chemicals.
No.
Extra chemicals.
You can get this with simple ice. Ice. ISO.
Oh, ice.
You can make it with ice too. You can use an ice extraction.
And Amity mixes.
By the time it's this pure, there's no chemicals left in there at all. It wouldn't even be like even trace amounts of anything. This is really done well when it's done properly. If there was chemicals involved in making it, they've all been evaporated off. Cooked off. So
some of these Amity grants, they steep it in tea.
Yeah, so many good ways to ingest it. Now you can put it into whatever food you want, for one thing. And like you can put it into teas or so many different ways.
Wow,
it's a wonderful thing. And there's nothing criminal going on about any of this. This is a plant that grows. Human beings are just life forms that have evolved here. Nobody owns anybody else. This is just us using nature to help people. And so there's nothing criminal going on here. But this jar of 100 grams of this extract
something 100 grams of the pharmacy
would get people executed in some countries around the world. It'll get you thrown in jail for a very long time in numerous other jurisdictions, including in North America here. This is not a crime, folks. This is a medicine. And this is what screams insanity to me and stupidity to me, is that we would be so stupid and so insane as to allow ourselves to be in a place where we accept that there's a prohibition on this.
Yeah. When it's going to be
for what?
Nothing but healthy for you.
It's nothing but healthy. It's nothing but
Big
so
Pharma
good.
doesn't want you to have this. They want you to take their chemicals so they can have side effects, so they can give you more chemicals.
That's right.
No side effects except for sleep and maybe the munchies. You're right. And then afterwards, after you get used to it, it's just pure health.
Yeah.
I've lost 30 pounds using this stuff.
When used properly, this is like the best medicine in the world for most of the things that harm people in serious ways.
Well, I believe because it's the fiber,
when
it's
used
filling me up.
Improperly, it can be really uncomfortable. It can be, you do not want to eat too much cannabis, ingest too much cannabis in its edible form. And you can't smoke too much cannabis, so you just maybe go to sleep, but it's not a bad trip at all.
Yeah.
But you can have a bad trip eating too much cannabis extracts and cannabis.
But
it's never fatal, and it's never going to fuck the rest of your life up. Sorry, Annie Barbie, but serious stuff. so there's no need to have authorities come in and intervene on the use of this in any way. The chemicals you were just talking about, the man-made synthetic pharmaceutical drugs that are available to people, not just by prescription, but you can go to drugstores everywhere in your community, or every community has a drugstore. Our city here has thousands of them. There's drugstores everywhere, people. Oh my God, be afraid. There's drugstores.
Yeah.
And you should be afraid.
And your government will even help you give you the free drugs.
That too. They'll help you get those drugs.
They won't give you free RSO.
They're going to keep you from getting the good stuff and help you get the other stuff.
Yeah.
And the point of the other stuff is that, there's some benefit to those other things that you can buy in drugstores. There's benefit to lots of those different things. But unlike this, the downside of those drugs can be very serious, can be death.
Yeah.
And yet, where is the government coming in and like making sure nobody has any reasonable access to that?
Really,
because it can be dangerous.
Yeah. No, they promote it and take taxes from it and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
So we live in an upside down, backwards world with respect to what's right and wrong, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Isn't that show, that upside down, backwards world, Stranger Than Fiction or something that they just had on Netflix? It was an upside down world. No.
I'm not up on what's going on. I don't have the Netflix even anymore. I'm stuck in my own little bubble here with the, YouTube and. I'm pretty focused on what I'm doing. I don't have a lot of time for watching anything. If I did have time, I might watch my own show and see if it was any good, so I can decide whether to keep doing it or not. I don't know, but I don't really have time to watch my own show either. So, although I did watch a little bit of last week's show, I thought I was a little too angry.
You were?
I thought so. Towards the end there, I'm angry.
It's okay. It's not you, it's them.
If I focus on it, if I think about it, if I want to understand how I feel about it, fuck yeah, I'm angry, man.
Yeah,
I'm angry as hell about the plight of all these poor people. Most of it driven by bad drug policy.
You got to keep that level
and other policies. Well, yeah, that and anger doesn't solve much.
No, but it gives you the energy to keep going.
It does that.
It does. You just got to learn how
and
to
that's
control
what I use
that
it
energy,
for.
Right? Yes, exactly.
But I'm not, I don't think I was following my own advice there on the show there of having as much fun as you can.
Yeah, that's true. Right?
I want to somehow express to people, because this is an opportunity that I have by getting into your living rooms and into your minds there with the ability to talk about things. And so I do want to express to people my journey, what it is that we're trying to do here, what's right and wrong, and my opinion and how I feel about things. But just in seeing what I saw, I thought, hey, that's an angry guy. I don't know that I watch him for too long. So it's okay to be angry. I'm just not sure it's all that good to express anger, too much.
Yeah.
I want to get the point across, and that's kind of the point that I was trying to get across by getting a little angrier and a little angrier
but maybe
every
you're
week.
Making somebody else feel that anger too, though.
I want them to feel the anger a little bit, enough to make a phone call, enough to make a decision and say, you're right. This world is really messed up, and I maybe could do something about it. One person can make a difference, Maybe you can't do everything, but you could do something, and if everybody did a little something, then we'd have a lot going on. And so one person doing something might inspire somebody else to do something, and now it's more than just you.
It's just like
and you never know how it can
grow.
Something
good, and you try it, and you're on video, and you go, oh, that's good. And then somebody else will watch that video and say, hey, I want to try that to see if it's just as good. It works both ways,
You try to help.
Yeah.
And if you make a difference, if you help a little bit, it feels really good. It becomes addictive, and people want to continue to do more of it. So I really encourage people to do that, to get angry enough that they make that decision, to say that, I want to make a better world for the generation to come after me. That's something I can do while I'm here. Just complaining about it all the time, maybe if you're just doing it by yourself, just being mad about it.
Yeah,
especially,
you got a whole team out there in the RV.
Especially if you're mad, and you're not even sharing it. You're just mad.
Yeah.
And you're mad because the world's messed up, and there's not much you can do about it. You're mad because your personal world is messed up. I mean, you got family issues going on, and this is going on at work, and everybody's got their stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
But just being mad just takes away your quality of life. It allows those other forces that are involved with your life to kind of win, if you will. I mean, it's looking at it that way works in some cases, not in others. But nonetheless, the point is that anger is no place to live. It's no place to be very often at all. It's no fun.
No fun.
And I think you should have as much fun as you can have.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're angry, you're not having fun, right? Yeah. Most people. I don't know. Maybe you can be angry and have fun.
People in Australia and Scotland are watching us right now.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, we are definitely getting around the world, aren't we?
Well, yeah. The message is have as much fun as you can.
Mary says hi too.
Be a little bit angry at the things that aren't right in your world, but don't stay angry all the time because that's no way to live.
No.
And have fun doing something about what makes you angry. Like Mary. Mary's a little firecracker that can't sit still for things that aren't right, and she's been like that for a long time in her life, and good on her. We need all kinds of people to be like that. And so Mary's this wonderful person that's lived a great life helping out in her community back east there.
Yep.
And she saw what we were doing here with the Cannabis Substitution Program, where we help get people high-dose edibles to help them get off opioids and other things. And she wanted to help us. And, people that want to do stuff, they make it happen. And Mary made it happen, and she came here, and she worked with us for over a year. I'm sure I don't know if it was 2 years. It was the most wonderful thing to have her here,
she was a great person,
taking control of the baking for us and baking 6 different things every time. And a box of she'd pull up in her truck and you'd have a box of this and a box of that and a box of that. She literally did the work of like 5 or 6 of our donators all by herself.
Yeah.
Allowed our program to thrive under these circumstances. Yeah. And the circumstances I referred to there is that for 3.5 years, the program operated on the sidewalk out in front of Van Du to long lineups of people that would line up for the last 2.5 years twice a week. And for about an hour, we would dispense to them.
Yeah.
Well, then we moved into a storefront almost a year ago. And then we started going 6 days a week, 8 hours a day of being available to people. Wow. We ended up having to cap the amount of people we could have registered in the program to get what they needed. 420 milligrams every 4 days is what we provide people with. But we had to cap it at that. But when Mary came along, then because the problem was we don't want to turn anybody away, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, someone comes to you and they're struggling, they're drug sick, they need help today to get through the day, to maybe get to tomorrow. Yeah. You don't want to ever turn those people away, right? No. So we in all good conscience couldn't do that. And Mary, sent by the gods, this angel of a person, came and started providing us with enough that we could make sure that nobody got turned away.
Yeah.
So there's all the people in the program that they get their 420 every 4 days, but there's everybody else that comes that isn't part of the program. And we have stuff for them. We have muffins and cookies and other things. Wow. And Mary's the one who got that going for us and allowed us to sustain that. We've been almost a year since we stopped doing the twice a week on the sidewalk. And so now other people, that were aware that we were losing our head baker and that we were going to have a big void to fill, they've stepped up and have helped fill that void as well.
Carly,
and Mary, she's gone now, and that's the point of this, is that she's now had to go back to help her family back east, but she's taken us with her.
Yep, she started her own.
So she's got the Cannabis Substitution Program working in London, Ontario.
Yep.
You can look her up there, Mary McCarty on Facebook, and I'm not sure how
she's actually here. Too.
and she's watching. Hi, Mary. We miss you, Mary. We love you.
Belfast, Ireland, watching too.
Nice.
Lots of firecrackers there.
Mary McCarty might have something to do in Ireland. You never know, right?
You know.
You never know. That's probably a terrible Irish accent. Terrible attempt at an Irish accent.
I usually go with manly, yes, but I like it too.
Seriously, the Goralog. My goodness.
The old Irish Spring commercial.
Oh, God. So, yeah. And so Mary's had her 5th giveaway. She does it on Tuesdays. And she did not tell me how it went today, but, I guess she'll tell me.
Yeah.
But that's wonderful that's going on there. Also, there's Chris Backer in Halifax. They're well over a year and a half now. The program is well entrenched there. Very well supported by the community that they're in. I think Chris could probably use a few more volunteers if you're watching and you're anywhere near Halifax. And that's been going on there. Great work by those people. There's also a version of the CSP. It was because of us that they started in Victoria.
Oh, Victoria.
The Solid over there, which is a group that is an advocacy group for drug users over there, much like Van Du is here in Vancouver. They took the program under their wing. A board member from Vancouver took the concept of what we were doing here over there, and they've been going there now. I'm sure it must be 3 years plus that they've been going. And other people have contacted me in other places that they're doing similar things, and many people are just doing it, and they're not contacting me, and we don't know about it. But it is becoming a thing that people are understanding is important, and they're doing it, where they're just helping to get people high-dose edibles, and that's the trick, is high-dose edibles help.
She said the cops showed up today.
Oh.
Hey, there she is.
Mary.
The cops show up today. On the bottom there.
Do you want us to call you, Mary?
Yeah, I might be able to get her in here. Yeah, I can do.
Do you want to call me, Mary, and we'll put you on?
I can call her from
They
here too.
love what we're doing so far.
Oh, that's good news. Oh, we don't need to call Mary then.
It's up to you if you want to call in, Mary. So that's great.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
you
what has
had
to
a
happen.
sort of similar experience talking to two cops today, or was it
Right,
today?
but more than that, Chris in Halifax
right.
also had the police show up one day a long time ago now, and they've not been back, and he does this thing every Monday. He does it there. So that's an important step in the whole thing, is to have that contact with law enforcement to explain what's going on. And you're right. Today, the back lane was having new wiring put up, so they closed it right down with a couple of EPD officers. And so the one officer, I know him quite well. He's been at 420s many times. He's a friendly, happy guy.
Yeah.
I actually spoke with him 6 months ago, I guess. There was a protest going on right half a block up from here, and he was there standing guard there. And I went up and spoke to him about what we were doing with the RV at that point. We hadn't been in the RV for that long, and I explained it all to him there. He was there today. And so I said, hey, you're getting even closer to us now. And he says, so yeah, and, how you guys doing? And I said, well, we're doing well, but we're still waiting for Health Canada. And the city's still waiting for Health Canada. And I guess the VPD are still waiting for Health Canada because we haven't been bothered in over 4.5 months now since they did raid us in the RV once. I'll go over a bit of a timeline in a little bit here about the numbers involved and where we're at. But he said an interesting thing to me, which was that he had been on the beat. That wasn't his normal job. I think now he's a motorcycle cop.
Yeah.
But he had been on the beat twice during his VPD career here on the downtown east side.
Yeah.
And he said, what's very clear is that it's a gray area and it's a colored area.
Yeah.
It's not a black and white area.
No.
And I had told him about my encounter with Candace Murphy.
Yeah.
She's the head of the downtown beat cops on the downtown east side. After I explained it all to her, she having been given our file because of the raid that happened on us after 2 weeks of being in the RV, and she listened to the whole story about how we had gotten to be here, we'd gotten into the and sure I'll cover a bit of that. For at that time, for 3.5 years, we had been at Vancouver giving out care packs to people that waited on the sidewalk for us for hours through 3.5 years of winter and summer and heat and cold and all the rest of it. 2.5 years after doing that, because of studies and reports on us that had been done by primarily Dr. M.J. Malloy, but others as well, showing the safety of what we were doing, the efficacy of what we were doing, the city passed a motion saying they would support low barrier access to cannabinoids for the opioid crisis. And so meeting with the city resulted in us having an understanding that we would find a storefront and start providing low-cost and no-cost cannabis through the storefront. It took about a year to find a storefront because we were honest about, we were going to provide cannabis, but we didn't have permission from Ottawa yet. And so the landlords didn't want to rent to us. And it had to be in this area. We were 1 block away from Main and Hastings, and that's where we need to be, was within this sort of 1 or 2 block area radius of Main and Hastings here. Wasting in pain, they call it.
Wasting in pain.
And so we found this place almost a year ago now. In a couple of weeks, it'll be a year that we found this storefront that we're broadcasting from. And we started providing that service from the storefront. But
it lasted long.
Health Canada, the city said, well, sure, we're going to support you, but you also have to have the support of Health Canada. They said the province to begin with, but it turns out it's a federal issue, so then we're applying to Health Canada. We applied 8 months ago. 8 months and 2 days ago, we applied to Health Canada under an emergency basis for just a temporary exemption to allow us to stay in the storefront as well as an application for licensing from Health Canada that we understood would take a while to make that work, but a temporary exemption to continue the work that we had been doing for 3.5 years. And that is now 8 months since we applied. That's ludicrous.
It is
crazy.
crazy.
So we got booted out of the store by a judge who said our hands were unclean because we were providing cannabis to save people's lives. You know, a judge who now has blood on his hands, if he didn't already. He's concerned about a little bit of dirt. In any case, he was right when he said that he had no confidence that we would get our licenses within 6 months.
Yeah.
Because 6 months has now come and gone since that happened. So we bought an RV, and we didn't miss a single day. And we've been out in the RV doing what we were doing from the store in a somewhat limited capacity, but the same thing. And waiting for Health Canada while the city waits and while the VPD wait. And we're all just waiting.
Yeah. Even me, I'm still waiting for my ACMPR.
And so that's where we are.
It's been 6 months.
So, yeah, and so I told this cop in the lane about the conversation that I'd had with Candace Murphy.
Yeah.
Because after 2 weeks of being in the RV, we got raided by the VPD. And they stole a whole bunch of our supplies for people. And that prompted me to contact the Deputy Chief, Steve Ray, who I have a relationship with because I presented this program to the VPD board before we started it. And he gave me his email, and we had sent each other numerous emails over the years. And I contacted him right away, and I said, why would you guys raid us? We have the support of the community. We're doing the right thing here. Yeah. And he said he wasn't aware of it. He would look into it. Someone would call me. So Candace Murphy called me. And I told her all about it. And I was extremely careful to make sure that I was clear that the experts in the field, Dr. M.J. Malloy, Professor Zachary Walsh, the local psychiatric nurse, all the different harm reduction groups, they all not only support what we're doing, but they've written us letters of support, including in those letters from those luminaries that if we were to stop our program and what we're doing to help people, that people would be put at risk of death. Yeah. So I told her that. And she says, oh, Neil, I'm really sorry to hear all that. We had a nice conversation up to that point.
Yeah, up to that point.
She said, we here at the VPD, we really hope that you're going to be able to get your licenses. But in the meantime, of course, you're going to have to stop doing what you're doing. And I said, no, excuse me, you didn't hear what I just said? You couldn't have said that to me if you heard what I said, you know? And so then we had a very nasty exchange, and she threatened to arrest me and seize the vehicle. And I said, you do whatever you have to do. I'm sorry about that if that's what you have to do. But for us, we're a society of people that have a responsibility to the people that we're helping here. Yeah. We're helping to keep these people alive, and we know it. And we can't stop doing what we're doing. We won't. No. And she said, oh, yeah, on this day at this time, I'm telling you to stop it. And I said, well, whatever you got to do. They did not come and arrest us, and so I told him that. And so this officer today in the lane, when I told him that, he said, well, Candace, her opinion of life is very black and white.
Yes, it sounds like it.
And he said, and I'm being very kind in saying that to her. And he said, that's when he told me that his experience is that in this neighborhood, there needs to be some color. And there's definitely some gray. Yeah. And so then that was good. And then the other officer that was there, it ended up that she was the one stationed at the lane here. And she was watching us with beady eyes so close, And then I saw somebody, that left the van come up, and she stopped them, and she wanted to see what they had there. So I got out and introduced myself to her and asked her. First though, I walked past her and this fellow that were doing that, and walked into the alcove of our store. Yeah. And then, like seconds later, he was coming up, and I motioned him over, and I said, "What did you say to her?" And he says, well, she asked me what I had, and I showed her that I had these edibles and I had this joint, and I told her that, you are the best people in this neighborhood, and that you're the ones that were doing it for years over there. Yeah. And she said, did I pay for it? And I said, no, it's free. So I thanked him, and then I went and talked to her, and I had a long chat. She had to understand some things. It's funny how the simple cops on the beat,
black and white.
They don't get it.
No, they don't. Yeah.
They don't get the actual spirit of what they're supposed to be
Do you
doing.
think maybe their training doesn't allow them to?
That is exactly what I think it
It
is.
is because it's
That
law,
they're not-
right? They're being taught the law not to have a heart.
Yeah,
Right?
that they're taught to enforce these laws.
Yes.
They're taught that it's up to Parliament and elected
And
people
judges
to decide. No, they're taught that it's up to elected people to decide on what's right and wrong, and that it's all based on what the majority believes.
Yeah.
And so that if the politicians say we can't do this, that's all that matters. Someone that we elected made a decision, and now we have to go by that. They're paid.
Unless we get charged and take it to court, and then a judge.
Well, sure, but as far as the cops'
that's-
perspective is on these laws, is that if that's the law, their job is to enforce it. That's what they're paid to do. That's what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
And the majority of taxpayers who pay their salary have voted for these governments that have decided on these laws, and it's within their power to do that. And that's all the thought that they really give it. Other than that, they're there to get their numbers. They're there to make sure that they fill their quotas, that they look like they're doing their job, and they're just trying to get their paycheck. They're trying to satisfy the requirements of their job like anybody else.
Yeah.
And so they can't buck the trends. They can't be activists. There's a lot of peer pressure amongst cops to just do what you're told. Don't be, speaking out against these things because that won't get us anywhere.
No.
They want to keep making their paychecks. The union leaders want to keep filling the quotas. They want to make sure that the cops' times are all accounted for, and they needed more,
But these
so
cops
they can
could be
get
doing
more.
other things with their time instead of busting people for weed, right? There's
sure.
a lot of other crimes that are happening that
Oh,
these
man.
people could be focused on instead of doing something like this.
It does us and them no service to be interfering with people using cannabis or getting cannabis for each other.
Yeah.
It does none of us any service. It's not about serving the interests of the public or the service of the police, and it harms both groups quite badly.
It does.
So that's how the cops get it, and what they get is that this is the law, this is made by elected people, this is what we're paid for by the people that elected them to do, we're going to do what we're told. What they don't get, what they need to get, is that is a very fragile place to be if you're interfering with a human being and what they are doing.
Yeah.
If you're stopping somebody in their day and detaining them to ask them questions, that's a serious thing to do. If you're putting them in handcuffs for officer safety or whatever, now that is a very serious thing
You're
to
talking
do.
about
I'll display a little anger there.
Yeah.
That is a very serious thing to do, is to put a human being into handcuffs.
Yeah.
That is very serious.
Especially a Supreme Court judge.
And anything,
Which
that's
they
another
just-
story.
which they just
For
did,
those in Ireland and Australia and Scotland, you don't know. But here in Vancouver, the VPD, 5 armed officers decided that an 80-year-old retired Supreme Court justice might, he was a black fellow, might match the description of somebody that was doing some minor violent activity.
To other people in the
And they
court.
put him in handcuffs. Can you
They did.
imagine?
And then the cops had to apologize. The mayor's
Mayor's
apologized. I
apologized.
think John has apologized. Oh my God! Really? Like the guy's in the Supreme Court.
And they should apologize to every person that they put in handcuffs that doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
If you're an armed, trained police officer and you've got someone who appears to be cooperating, your safety's not at risk.
He's 80 years old.
Yeah, that's what
and
I'm
then
saying.
throwing 80-year-old
The guy said, "I'm 80 years old. How could I be at risk to 5 police
Or
officers?"
one.
Yeah.
Armed.
Oh my God.
With guns like tasers.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. Eh?
Policing and public servants are out of control. This democracy needs a reset, and that's one of the big examples of why is because our police really don't get what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be only interfering if there's a really good reason for that, and then as gently as they can, because they are immediately now violating human rights in doing that. Hey man, if you did something wrong and you match the description and the police are on you for it, you deserve whatever you're going to get if you did that, right?
Yeah.
But, if you didn't do it then they need to be careful with you. And they always need to be careful about people that they're not sure of. And they shouldn't jump to conclusions, innocent until proven guilty, sort of thing. So, yeah. And anything beyond that is a much further intrusion after the handcuffs, be it charges and then put in a cell and brought before a judge and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So the cop's job is to not do that unless they have to do that, and that there's a damn good reason for doing that. And the way that they need to be thinking about it, which is where I'm saying that in my conversations with them, this is what they don't get. This is where they look at me with a blank stare and go, is that really true? Yeah. And the truth is that you are not a criminal. You have not committed a crime unless it's by some gross negligence where you were stupid as hell, or you're making money so you turned a blind eye. Those are the other two cases. But for the most part, unless you have done significant damage to somebody else, and important, that you understood that that's what you were doing, like you knew that you shouldn't be stealing this guy's wallet, you knew that you shouldn't go out and beat the tar out of him because of what he said to your buddy, or whatever it is, I mean, that's when you're a criminal. But you need those two things. You need to have done something significant that caused significant harm. And two, really important, you need to understand, you need to have known before you did that that this is wrong. This is not the right thing to do. I'm committing a crime here. You have to have the knowledge. Mens rea, actus rea are two words or terms that they don't seem to be telling police about. They don't seem to get those two terms, and they're really simple terms.
And they're part of the law.
So, this is important that our police understand these things and that they understand the violation on human rights. I didn't know what to talk about today on the opening talk. There's nothing new in that.
The cat's doing it for you.
Thanks for making an appearance there, Cato.
I think somebody pissed him off.
Cato the cannabis cat. He's obsessed with flies.
Is that the flies?
There he goes. Anyway, you can't even see him, so why are we talking about him?
You can hear him.
But one of the things as I considered what to talk about today in the opening rant was regulations.
Yes.
Here we are with, public servants, be it a police officer, be it a bylaw officer, be it a forest ranger, be it whoever it is. There's all kinds of these public servants that seem to have some ability to interfere with us, to penalize us, and to do these things. And when it comes to the sale of different commodities, there are public servants who have a role to play in forming regulations that would make those interactions safer than otherwise. Because some things that are sold back and forth do result in problems if there's not some regulations.
Yes.
Regulations about how it's produced, who it's produced by, all kinds of things.
Ivory.
There's a million examples
Yes.
of things that they regulate.
Yeah.
So regulations are not just fine, but they're required.
Yeah.
That is a role of public servants, is that when problems arise that can be identified and regulations can be applied that would prevent and solve those issues, it is their responsibility to do that. That's one of the reasons that we have public servants, is to regulate some of the things in our environment that can cause problems if not properly regulated. The problems is that these things are in many cases not properly regulated, and in fact the motivations of the regulators become completely corrupted by the actual groups that are being regulated, by former CEOs and board members now taking positions as part of the regulatory boards and lobbying actively for the concerns of those groups. And their concerns are always to maximize profits, to minimize their costs, to all of these things that businesses do because that's what businesses do.
Yeah.
So regulations are not just fine, but regulations are required and needed in many different forms in many different places.
Yeah.
But the problem is they get corrupted.
Yeah.
And when they get corrupted, then things can really go sideways.
Yeah.
And so that's happened in many different industries in our world here in North America over the last 150 years and such. So regulations need to be the least intrusive possible on the human rights of the people involved.
So it's like we should get rid of corporations being lobbyists and just actually get lobbyists for the people in there not let the governments be influenced by the big money,
Interesting
the big
thought.
monies of companies, right? And just getting
Your
people.
representative is
It's
supposed to be
I
your
know,
lobbyist.
but we all know that big farms and big companies influence the government by these lobbyists. So if we actually got rid of those people, just had people lobbying for the people, saying, we'll educate you on what we need you to change, but not be influenced by big money. Right?
Now there would be negotiations with big business and corporations,
well,
of
they
course.
They can still help build.
And during those
stuff.
negotiations for
And
things,
bridges.
I'm sure there would be lobbying by high-powered, high-paid, people that understand how to get their way and stuff like that. But I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Because really,
it seems that the government
the enemy
is lack
of
the
us,
people, even though they're supposed to be representing us, they seem lack of the representation.
Well,
of
and that's
people
because of the corruption,
that's
right?
most of the big business, and here we'll help you build this bridge for $100 million.
We'll let your brother's company do the work, and all these other things where they've corrupted our system.
Yeah.
And that is what's happening exactly. Because another thing that our public servants need to recognize is that the enemy that they need to protect us from are the corporations, are the people that are using business ethics and not human ethics.
Exactly.
And so, and yet those people that are using business ethics and not human ethics are the very people that get the ear and get the lobbying time and get the behind closed doors meetings and the dinners and the golf and all the rest that goes on with access.
Yeah.
They get access to those public servants of ours that we can't get access to.
No.
Very difficult for us to get a conversation with any of the high-ups, in especially the federal government.
Yeah.
Very difficult to do
They
that.
can have them come to banquets and stuff like that and throw in charity money and
Oh,
all
boy,
that kind of stuff. But we can't have, like, what Bill Gates to our house for dinner, for a little dinner to help him promote our company or something.
We should have public servants as they're sworn in say, and I understand that our job is to protect people from corporations.
Exactly. Yes.
And that is a big part of it. I also like the idea of having everything a lot more transparent in what goes on with government.
Yes.
Behind closed door meetings, like you say, these fancy dinner parties, things like that go on with our public servants.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen outside of the public view. So that whenever that's happening, whenever there's a closed door meeting, whenever there's a meeting of any sort, we should be privy to that. And I don't see any reason why we can't be. I mean, there are the odd discussions about things to do with national security.
I was just thinking that. You just picked up on that thought right there.
And of course,
things maybe we have to keep.
We'll give them some of that.
Right.
But there again, an area for corruption. Okay, well, we don't have to tell them about anything that's national security. So obviously setting up weed stores is about national security. So we don't be talking about any of that, No, they should be transparent as can be. In this world, the digital world that we live in, there's no reason why they can't be completely transparent. We could easily have, a GoPro on the forehead, but no, we could have a couple of people as part of a bit of a film crew or something. It goes with every one of our MPs, wherever they go. And you can just dial it up. There's all kinds of space, on the interweb here. And you can dial up to, MP Watch and put in the name of your MP. And let's see what he's doing right now.
I'm scared.
There's a show.
I'm scared to say this, but and with that judge being misidentified as somebody who's doing dangerous things to people or punching people, right?
He was kicking at people.
Now, most of the police carry.
He wasn't.
Yeah, but most of the police carry cameras now.
Yeah.
Right. Well, society is also afraid of facial recognition. Now, if we put those cameras and facial recognition together, right, they would have seen this guy on the boardwalk, and they would have known instantly that he is a judge, and that's not the person, and he would have not been handcuffed. I know it's really
that type of RoboCop future is here.
It's here.
It's here. I don't see why they
would.
wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tool.
Because the opposite is true.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's true.
There's always room for abuse.
They would
of
be
all
able to
these things.
visually identify him just like they can do a license plate right now. They have that thing that can tell you who owns that license plate.
I know.
Right?
They're driving around all the time, scanning all the license plates.
Yeah.
And I'm sure more than that too. I mean, we witnessed just yesterday, all of a sudden, cops coming out of nowhere, a guy in a wheelchair.
Wow.
But guns pulled.
Wow.
Like we saw a bunch of cops being cops out there, like
Wow,
guns drawn on this guy. And there again, a guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the hell was going on there. I didn't go and ask at all.
I could only
But it was
think
just an
maybe at an
example
Eagle
for
or
me
something.
looking at that, like, man, when they want somebody, they got you. You know, we see it all the time here. All of a sudden, the cops will be going the wrong way down this street, and because they know there's somebody walking up that street that they've identified, that's who they want, and they're going to catch them between here and there. And so, you know, we live in a world where we need to have great controls and protections with respect to police powers, you know, because they have those tools. They better damn well be responsible with them, right? There better not be laws that are going to catch innocent people in what's going on here. They have to stop penalizing people for pot. They have to stop penalizing people for these non-violent crimes that are none of the state's business as far as what people are doing. And if we could get those kind of protections established, then perhaps we could you know, have these things like facial recognition as part of our world without the fear of so much abuse, where, you know, just anybody, because they smoked a joint once, is now afraid that they're going to get spotted on some cop's camera and be arrested because, you know, they you know, smoked a joint 10 years ago and crossed the border, and they've been looking for them ever since. What do you got on the chat there?
Ron says that since our cops have cameras, why not our politicians?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we wouldn't have
But they don't need to be on us.
No.
They need to be on the politician.
Yeah.
In some cases, sure, let us see who they're dealing with, especially if they're being threatened or bribed.
Or big the companies.
You know, that's what I mean by companies.
Yeah, or bribes,
So that, you know, when those company reps come along and they've got pictures, you know, or whatever it is they got, that they don't get away with doing that anymore. We should make sure that there's no opportunity for that. If we were smart about it, we would make a system like that, and we could. But the whole system is rigged to be not done like that. So we need a big reset of all of this. The system is designed so that they're not accountable. It's not transparent. You know, their powers are more and more expanded rather than being limited all the time. We need limited, accountable, transparent public servants. That's what we need. And the reason we're so screwed and that the system is rigged against us is because to get that, we have to elect into these positions of public servants or power or whatever you want to call it, people who are now willing to write legislation that will limit their power, that will make them more accountable, you know, more liable for jail time and penalties if they violate their trust, right? We have to count on them to do that. And then to restrict their access to these corporations that are going to give them a nice pension, that are going to give them a nice job when they're done, that are, you know, these powerful forces. And if you don't do that, I mean, it's the bullet or the million. Like, what do you want, right? Like, I mean, if you're in a position and these huge leveraged groups want you to do something for them, it's hard to stand up against that. You know, it is literally the million or the bullet in many cases. I'm sure of it. It has to be, or things wouldn't be the way they are right now. We wouldn't have prohibition of cannabis. People wouldn't be sitting in jail cells for years because of producing a medicine that helps people and could never harm somebody in a significant way. You could ingest this whole jar and it wouldn't kill you.
Nope.
You would wish that it did for probably a whole week. But, you know...
John Murray says one of those jars is 900 cupcakes.
900 cupcakes.
So that would be the
when he said that,
900.
I thought about his cupcakes are small.
But
It
they're
doesn't
so
matter.
strong.
It doesn't matter how big they are. It matters what's in them.
That's
and those typically from John are about 70 milligrams.
So you could eat that entire jar,
And you could
900
eat that,
cupcakes.
and it likely wouldn't kill you. I'm only going to say likely because...
So basically he's getting 9 cupcakes
Here's
per
the
gram.
science on it. Not a scientist, but I do have the ability of repeating things. I know some things. That there's this thing called LD50, which stands for lethal dose 50%. And the lethal dose is in whatever it is you're talking about, in this case, cannabis oil. And the 50% would be average human beings of adult age. So the LD50 rating for everything in our environment, they put this thing on anything you could possibly get into your mouth and ingest. And everything has pretty much an attainable level. And many things, the level that results in 50% of the people dying is not very high, and it'll kill you if you take too much of many things. Most of your houseplants are deadly, and many other things. So fruits and vegetables, they all have their fairly easily attainable LD50 rating. Potatoes are 50, or pardon me, a dozen raw potatoes, other things. Anyway, The LD50 rating for cannabis is 1,500 pounds in 10 minutes. You also have a time frame on how quickly you have to ingest it. So if you could ingest, and I guess this would be the active ingredient that we'd be talking about of cannabis, and you and I were talking before the show about how much weight of cannabis it would take to produce how much extract. And I think that this is not representative of 1,500 pounds. In fact, I know it's not. In fact, this is actually representative of less than 6 pounds, because that's what I provided to make that. Yeah. So, and that's just shake, not powerful bud.
No,
so
right there.
There you go. This is nowhere close to what it would take to kill a human being. It would put you into a probably comatose state. Like seriously, you would be.
I could take that for a whole year. That would be a whole year's supply.
That's a year's supply for you.
Pretty much, about a gram every 3 days. Right. So 250 milligrams each day. There's 1,000 milligrams in each gram. So about that. So
it's
a long time, man. That'd be really good.
There's not a dangerous plant.
No.
Cannabis, unlike most of the other things in the environment, does not need much regulations.
No.
You can green out. I mean, if you smoke a big chunk of that or eat a big chunk of that, you're probably going to green out. That requires some regulation. If it's going to have that dramatic an effect on somebody needs to be told about that, before they consume it. So at the point of purchase, there would need to be a warning about, ingesting X amount of this product can result in dizziness, don't operate heavy equipment, all of those sorts of warnings would apply to something like that. Keep out of the reach of children. Same thing, it's not going to kill your child, but you don't want your child to be dizzy, to be, feeling like that. You can trip and bang your head and all kinds of things. So keep out of the reach of children. Use, with some knowledge of what it is you're using. And that's the regulation for that. And that's pretty much all you would need. For most of the things, the only regulations that are required is a simple warning.
Yes.
And then that's what you find. On so many of the products in our environment, there's a simple warning. This product can cause such and such. And that's all people need. People aren't trying to hurt themselves.
Somebody's asking if you were to buy that 100 grams of Rick Simpson oil, how much would it cost?
$2,500 would be a cheap price.
Would $2,500?
Would be a cheap price.
Well, there you go, Marie. There's your answer.
A cheap one.
Yeah.
We have this available at $25 a gram.
Yes.
People use but that's cheaper than most people offer that at.
I can get it right now, $13.50 a gram.
Hey, nice.
Yes.
There you go.
So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Right, but that's because I'm.
Yeah, and that might be more in line with the actual cost of it.
Yes. I think that's what they're doing.
We provide the shake that we use. The other person is providing the labor.
Yeah.
We also provide the ISO in this case.
More shake to
so we buy the huge drums of ISO.
Yeah. And
so there's a cost involved in this. It's not an easy process. It's probably fair at that price.
Yeah.
I mean, people will hear me talk about the cost of cannabis being too high. And that there again, it depends on how it's produced.
Yeah.
You can't really produce this much easier than what we're doing it already.
Yeah.
It just is that process to get the cannabinoids off and to get the plant matter out, to get it to that level of purity and medicinal quality. You can't do much less than that. With growing cannabis, you can grow cannabis cheaply.
Yep.
Which is the good news. I mean, it's great that you can do that. You
can
can also grow cannabis expensively,
Yep.
And many people do. There's connoisseurs and people that really care a lot and understand a lot about the proper nutrition, which means buying fertilizers, what light spectrums to use, and the lights are not cheap, especially if you're growing a fair amount. That costs a lot. There's dehumidifiers, there's air conditioners, there's fans, there's containers, there's the building itself, there's the hydro costs, which can be immense if you're growing indoors. So there's a whole bunch of costs that can be associated with producing high-end cannabis for connoisseurs. So high-end cannabis connoisseurs are going to be spending a fair amount of dollars. They're going to be buying it probably by the gram for the future foreseen. But the good news is that it's also a plant that can be produced easily outdoors, in greenhouses. Indoors, you've got to bring in a fair amount of hydro. So there's a fair bit of hydro cost to grow indoors, whatever you want to do. So an outdoor, it's not as good in many cases as the indoor cannabis that's grown by the connoisseurs who really know what they're doing and that produce the very best cannabis. But that other cannabis that's grown in greenhouses and outdoors is still just fine, works very well. You can still extract, the pure medicine off of. Some of it is excellent.
2 plants.
So there should be room in the marketplace for the poor people.
Yes.
For the sick people.
Yeah.
For those people that are daily users for whatever they're.
It's like only the rich can be healthy.
Yeah, apparently.
I know. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Us poor people have to buy McDonald's and all that stuff.
In
right?
a society, it's supposed to be the opposite.
Yeah.
In a society, that's where the rich look after the poor. A society is where you have a whole bunch of different levels of people that are able to do things, and those that can do, and those that can't. In a society, we help those people. We help the people that can't. It's just what a society does.
It's a village
and
thing,
so
right?
a society is not having a bunch of paid public servants working hard to make sure all the rich people get looked after properly. That's not a society. That's an empire run by an emperor, and the emperor gets his needs looked after, and everybody else looks after his needs. Well, this ain't an empire. This is a society. This is a democratic, free society of people that have moved beyond having tyrants and dictators and kings and queens and pharaohs and all of these, public executions, off with their head, and all those other things that happened in those types of societies. We've moved beyond that. We've given rights to the peasants. We've decided that just because these people are born into this family doesn't really mean that their blood is full of some sort of special chemical that makes them better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. They weren't really endowed by the great creator of all things with some blessing that makes them better than everybody else. They're not better than everybody else. In fact, they're luckier than everybody else because they've been born into these situations where they have all of these resources at their fingertips.
And never had to struggle.
And they're not as good as all those poor people who are born into poverty, who have parents who don't understand how to raise a child and have all of these problems and still manage to survive and still manage to find their way to be independent and to give back to society. So a society of free people. Don't spend all of the masses of people's energy making sure that the rich get taken care of. It's the other way around.
Exactly.
We're all here, including the rich, to help make sure that segment of society that was born less privileged, that was born less bright or whatever it is, or however it is that they're disabled or underprivileged, that they get looked after. That's what we should be doing here. And with the prohibition of cannabis and now the so-called legalization of cannabis, it's the opposite. The government is looking after the rich people. Yeah. If you can afford higher than prohibition prices and you got all your ID in place and you got a bank account and, you get to have a store to go into and buy some cannabis at really inflated prices where you're just paying some fine up front for not buying alcohol or whatever else that fine might be for. But, you're paying your fine up front when you're buying government weed or even illegal weed because the pricing is all in there. Yeah. When you're going to a gray market dealer and you're paying $10 a gram for that weed, that's because this guy has to put together a legal fund and put together some money in case he loses his house and all the other things that can happen to a person who gets busted by the government for selling weed. So we've all been paying the fines and the penalties that the drug dealers would have to pay if they got busted. Yeah. That's how it all works. They charge you as much as they're going to need to look after themselves if they get busted, and hopefully they don't get busted. So they get a whole bunch of bling and fancy cars and houses, and then eventually they get busted, and then, it depends how big they get in the organization and all the rest of the stuff that's going on with this whole thing. But us consumers of cannabis have for decades, because of this government policy, been paying a hefty fine to get a hold of cannabinoids. Yep. We pay it to the dealers because they charge us up front. Now we're paying it to the government because they're charging it up front. But we are all having to pay some hefty fine on top of what the real cost of cannabis should be for no good reason, but that's what we're doing. And because that's the case, well, who always gets left out when you get fined? Like, you find a rich person,
That pain.
you didn't cost him anything.
No.
He didn't feel nothing.
No.
He wasn't going to spend that money before he dies.
No.
Like, it's just money that he's got that he doesn't need, that, you know, is going to be there when he's gone for somebody else to not need as well. So there's no penalty for a rich person to get a fine in this world here. You're fining the poor people. That's who you're fining.
Yeah.
And the people that really can't afford it, now you're really penalizing them. You're not only penalizing them for the original offense, whatever that was, but now you're going to penalize them because they don't have resources in their life. They don't have the ability to pay. So now they get a criminal record for not paying the fine. Now the fine goes up because they took too long to pay it if they could pay it at all.
Actually, if you can't pay a fine, there's the judge will set an amount a day, and you go do it in jail. So $5 a day. This is to say if you had a $100 fine, that's 20 days. But you're going to go under the same rules of jail. So every 3 days that you do, you're going to get $5 credit because you get a fourth day. So that's how it works. So us poor people have to go to jail in order to pay our fines, to get paid off, instead of having a criminal record. But I did that 3 times in Ontario. Instead of paying a fine, I went and did 10 days or 20 days in jail. And then you were always, when they needed room in the jail, you were always the first people they would kick out early. Right?
Sure?
Because you're only there for a fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Let's put the paying customers in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, our system is so messed up.
I have a question about the RV. Does it get slow the day before check issue? Because I know tomorrow's check issue. No, so
not
it's
at all.
busy all the time.
No, not at all.
No.
It gets really slow the week before check issue week.
So you kind of know.
Well, we've. It's hard to know exactly. Sometimes it surprises us. You know, it's slow. Sometimes we don't think it should be slow, and it's busy. Other times we wonder why.
So tomorrow you're
tomorrow will be busy as
you're
always.
Very busy, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but not for the CSP.
No.
For the Healing Wave.
Yeah, for the Healing Wave. Yeah.
The CSP is the opposite.
Yeah.
On check day.
Yeah.
Very few people come for their CST.
Asking for the 420 milligrams.
Yeah, they don't come and get their CST. They don't come and get their 420 because they don't need it, because they got money and they can go somewhere else and buy something else.
Did you get some good news a couple of weeks ago that you might be able to increase the 250 people?
We did, and we have.
We help you out?
Yeah, we didn't. We can't.
No, and that's why I'm not saying anything. But
we haven't been able to expand it by 100. We have expanded it. We continue to do that as we choose the people that we know and we encounter.
That's good, because one of your goals was to start expanding it.
We don't ever turn anybody away, and that of course is our goal, is to be able to help everybody that needs it.
Yeah.
We've been so fortunate to be able to not turn people away. We've had to tell people that they can't be part of the program. We've been doing that for several months, but then we say, hey, just come and see us every day, and we'll get what you need. So we've got a lot of people that understand that they can come and they can get a free muffin or two and a joint or two. Every day. We don't like to give out more than 2 joints a day to people because we wouldn't be able to keep up. That's the whole trick. Of course, there's a lot of tricks to doing what we're doing. When you're giving stuff away, I mean, we found out at Vandu the lineup becomes forever almost.
Yes, it was. It was like right around the corner,
and they'd be still running to get in line. As the lineup was dwindling, and so giving stuff away for free requires some rules, some boundaries, and some compassion, and those things. And so our people are really, really good. Jen's really good, and Andrew and George. We'll meet them a little bit.
Because
we will.
They're talking on there. George is talking to Mary.
It is about that time.
It is, isn't it?
It is. We didn't talk.
That's kind of why I brought it up. A little bit of a segue, because I know it's about 25 to 6.
You gave me that opportunity a little earlier too, and I didn't take it. Because we do want to talk about a lot of these things on the show, and I do like getting this stuff out there. We didn't have Jerry Martin on today because he's not in town.
Nope.
But the status quo remains. Yeah, that's his personal business. I'll let him talk about that. He has lots of personal battles going on, as we all do, for sure. But the one that we're concerned about with Jerry is his journey to the courts. He was a dispensary owner in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, and along with 2 other dispensary owners from Whitewood, Saskatchewan, that were also raided and shut down around the same time. They've put together a constitutional challenge about the charges that they have against them. And so that's been going on for 4 years now, 4.5 years since Jerry was originally charged and had his properties seized. And so now he's had his day in court. We can't really tell you much about that because there's a publication ban. But it did happen. The affidavits have been presented to the courts. There were some of the affidavits were questioned on cross-examination by the lawyers and by the Crown, which we did get to witness. They all got to have their say, and they all did really well, and we'll just see how that all winds down. It'll come back in September, where there's going to be final arguments and then a decision sometime after mid-September. And that really does affect us and what we're doing here as well. Theirs is the pursuit of low barrier access through a storefront, as well as ours. We have applications before Health Canada, along with the Compassion Club, along with Ted Smith's Victoria's Buyers Club, to allow for low barrier access to cannabis so that poor people can also buy cannabis that can be offered to them at reasonable prices, and the full range of medical cannabinoids that people need, not just cannabis flowers that are regulated in how potent they can be, not just edibles that have a limit of, say, 10 milligrams, where 10 milligrams might be the right dose for someone who's never done edibles before to start, but they're certainly not what's required for people trying to get off of opioids or dealing with other serious medical issues. And so that there needs to be access for those people to cannabis in all of its forms, and the more potent the better. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We've talked a little bit about the program, about how we were at Vandu for 3.5 years and then moved into the storefront and then got evicted from the storefront after 4.5 months. Now we're in an RV that we've been in for over 6 months, parked on the side of the road with tacit approval by the powers that be at this point, as we have not had any interference in the last 4.5 plus months, as everyone is still just waiting on bated breath for Health Canada
to give that call.
To say that they will allow for poor people to have access to cannabis in the ways that work for them to help them get off of opioids. 8 months since we applied for that, and here we are. So let's go outside and meet the people out there and see what's going on.
Sir.
You're on your way, are you, Glenn?
Have a good week. Well,
Thank you very much, sir.
I gotta beat the, well, I'm not going to beat the traffic, but I'm already in the traffic.
Yeah, you don't beat the traffic at this time of day. Yeah, you should stick around for about 45 minutes to beat the traffic.
Yeah, really, eh?
Maybe a little longer. I think we have what we need. All right, let's go see what it's like there. Okay. Beautiful day in downtown Vancouver. A little shot down the lane to Main and Hastings there. Not so crowded today. That's pretty good. This is the Healing Wave CSPRV. There's Jennifer Nelson. How are you? Can we chat with you here for a moment? How's your day?
Good.
Yeah. What are you putting in your blog tonight? You don't know? You're not taking notes again? Jen has a blog. You can find her on Facebook, Jen Nelson. And she also posts that into the Cannabis Substitution Project page at the end of every day, pretty much. Many of the things that happen here and our observations and our feelings. So
I guess sometimes I don't take notes, and then I just have to struggle to try to think of one at the end of the day.
which is hard because you're one of our main testers as well. How goes the drug testing today?
Yes.
It's fantastic. Well, that's good to hear. I see Andrew's. We can get a shot of Andrew there.
Yeah, he's rolling us some nice
we don't know if he's
cards
working
over there.
hard or hardly working, but he's working hard on hardly working if he's doing that.
Well, he's being a sweetheart because I choked too hard on his pipe, so I asked him to roll the joint, and there you go.
We're testing a gummy that came to us 1,000 milligrams. I don't know where this came from, but it's not something that we had donated. It's not a donator of ours. It's something that what happened here. We kind of traded. We traded for it.
Yeah, the guy said someone just gave me this. Just gave me this off the street. I'm looking to get a joint.
So he traded. Somebody gave it to him on the street, which is awesome. I mean, people are out there giving away high dose edibles to people, so that's really awesome. And he traded for a joint from us. So now we get to test it, and we're trying to find out where it comes from and see if they're interested in helping us with donations. So I see there's somebody who wants to talk to you, so we're going to go talk to Andrew at the back door. Or George, for that matter. I don't... That's our secret
That's
knock.
the secret knock. How we doing?
So this is the CSP part of the operation. Now, instead of having people line up on the sidewalk and get a care pack, they can come here and choose for themselves what they want to have in that care pack,
They can.
up to 420 milligrams.
Sure they can.
And so we have just a wonderful selection of things for people.
Here we do. We got some Cheerios at 80 milligrams and some cupcakes here with some marijuana icing at 80
It's,
milligrams.
Colleen for these, and Carly Thiessen for
Yes,
those,
they are.
and,
We got some-
and Roberta for those.
Yes,
we
they're
also
80
have Joe
milligrams.
Pepper
We have
for some of
cookies.
those.
We have
Cookies from,
Robert cookies at 80,
Robert's
80
cookies
milligrams.
and Damien's cookies.
And we have some chocolates right here at 5 milligrams, and we have some gummies here at 5 milligrams.
And Gorilla Ganja.
Yes, we do.
And there's
We have-
different kinds of Gorilla Ganja. What's
We
that
have
about?
some raspberry
And
indica,
and so the raspberry, it's full indica, right?
full indica. The raspberry's full indica. We have some black cherry. That's 1-to-1, 40 CBD and 40 indica.
No, 40 THC.
40
It is also indica, but it's THC.
Yeah, 40 THC and 40 CBD, and then we have 1-to-1 here, mango sativa 1-to-1.
Yeah.
We have 40 CBD and 40 THC,
Yeah.
and then we have a full pineapple one that's CBD.
Yeah.
Good for your anxiety, good for pain, good for more like a multivitamin for the day. And we have some caramels from Robert that's 150 milligrams. A lot of people like them today.
And
Pretty
then we
good.
got some chocolates that
Yeah.
that came from Weeds, Boss, and Gifts. And
Yeah,
that's
it's very
wonderful.
nice.
They've been awesome donators of ours,
have.
our project for the full 4 years. They were the first ones that I went to, and we've been very, very lucky to have them help us
Sure
as
we
well.
do. We had some
And then there's some
here.
caps, and,
Yeah, we got some.
and people, everybody gets a joint at the
Yeah, we
CSP
had
as
some.
well.
We have some hybrids. We just ran out of hybrids. People taking them.
Okay.
These are CBD ones.
We'll get those back right
These
away.
are 20 milligram CBD, and we have some green ones that are hybrids, half sativa, half indica.
And then we have some topicals as well,
Sure, we do. We have one right here.
and suppositories. This is what the
We
community
have
needs.
some old topical.
Nice.
This old topical right here was from Mary when she was here.
Right, yeah.
Made with love and at home. This one right here.
There we go. Yeah.
This one, very good donation. Thank you very much. Everybody loves it.
Very wonderful, very wonderful. So thank you very much, Andrew. I
You're
appreciate
very
the
welcome. I
update.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to come in and see you from the other door.
Cheers. Thank you.
So you might notice that there's a bunch of people wearing these hoodies. And this has been a wonderful thing that happened. We got a donation.
Black or green?
We have black and green.
Oh, all across the country.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, in Australia.
But- And so yeah, we got this great donation, and now we've been able to put together these hoodies for people. And if you want to support the Cannabis Substitution Program, you can do that by ordering a hoodie from us, a minimum $25 donation, and you got to pay the shipping costs to get it to wherever you are. Or if you can have somebody come to Vancouver and pick it up for you, or if you're in Vancouver, then that's a lot easier and a lot cheaper. But these are a good quality hoodie. We're very thrilled to have them, and it gives us the opportunity for people to help support us if they want, and for us to raise some money for the CSP. So that's what's going on with that. All right. Is everybody dressed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right. You're all decent?
Yeah, we're doing
Okay.
Get for coffee.
Oh, dear. Well, there goes George. He's camera shy. He tries to hide. We try not to let him hide, but, he's crafty, that guy. And so, yeah, welcome to the inner workings of the Healing Wave van and the CSP project.
Yeah.
This has been home for us now for over 6 months. And the weather is really good right now. We're really loving it. We don't have to have the heaters on, and we don't need the fans yet. But as we continue to get warmer weather, it's concerning for us about being in this thing with the hot sun beating down on us for the summertime. We went through that just in the store last year. It wasn't until November that we ended up in the RV. And in the store it was warm enough as it was. But we've already had a few tastes of it in here. And this is going to be cruel and unusual punishment for us to have to be in here instead of being in the store where we can have proper fans. We don't even have electricity out here. So hopefully our government, our public servants can get on it, get her done, provide us with a piece of paper with a signature on it so that the city would give us a license, and the landlord will allow us to go back in the store, and we can continue to do the same things that we're doing right here on the street helping people, but we could do it from a storefront, like as if we were like everybody else and other people in the mainstream world that get to have a storefront for their drugs, or a storefront for their party drugs, or a storefront for their entertainment, or a storefront for anything that they want, really, because we just live in a world where when people want something, other people supply that, and usually it's through some sort of a storefront, and because that makes it easy for people. And so you just get to have a location and have what people want, and then they get to go into the place where you have it, and they get to exchange for it, and out they go, and it works really simple. But for this one particular plant, you can grow and sell just about any other kind of plant you want, and that's not hard. There's stores for all of those. But for this particular plant, you can't have a store. You can't get those medical products at all. They're not even available at all, even though they say it's legal. You can go and get some recreational grade cannabis at the government stores and pay an exorbitant price for it, but that's not medicine, and by their own definition, it's not medicine. It's either been irradiated or sprayed chemically to kill microbes that shouldn't have been killed, because microbes have never hurt nobody on the cannabis plant anyway. It's all just smoke and mirrors, an illusion to allow for a regulatory scheme that provides higher than prohibition prices, artificially high prices, hugely artificially high prices on a simple commodity that so many people want, is so beneficial in so many ways for people. Yet this one thing is prohibited to have a storefront for medical cannabis patients that would accommodate people of low income and low means to be able to also just get something that could help them in their lives. And yet this is the fight that we're having. This is our continuing, agonizingly long quest for a community-based, low-barrier cannabis store. And it shouldn't be taking this long. It shouldn't be happening at all. All the dispensaries that were around 2 years ago before so-called legalization should have just been accepted into the mainstream with some minor regulations that would allow them to continue doing what they're doing, and to continue to allow access to people that need it and want it. But it's not the world we're living in. Our world has been severely corrupted by financial forces that have all the leverage and connections that they need to be able to pull off the greatest scam in the history of the world, and that is to prevent people from having access to a life-saving medicinal herb that's easy to grow, that harms no one, that has no lethal achievable limit, and yet that's the world we're in. So, there's a thing that talks about boiling a frog. That if you want to boil a frog, you have to first boil the water and then throw the frog into the water. But you can't boil a frog if you turn up the heat. You can boil a frog also by just slowly turning up the heat while it's sitting in the pot, and it won't even notice that it's getting boiled. And so that's kind of what's going on here, is that the water temperature has been getting hotter and hotter around us all the time. And by that I mean we've been losing our rights more and more all the time. All these governments that get elected into power, they continue to make more and more laws. They don't take away the old laws, they just make new laws. We have so much enforcement, so many fines that we pay, so much interference in our lives that make money for this government that just wants to continue to make money off of us. That we need to stop what's going on. We need to have public servants that work for us. We need to have a democracy that doesn't allow for any percentage of people to overrule the rights of any percentage of people. That 99% of the people don't get to take away the rights of 1% of the people. If the 1% of the people are not hurting anybody, they have the right to do that which they're doing, which 99% of the other people aren't doing. If you're the only one that's doing something that nobody else is doing, but you're not hurting anybody else in that process, then you have a right to do that. And no other amount of people get together and overrule your right. It's just wrong that we've allowed this democracy of free people with public servants to get to the point where it's a democracy of people only free to obey, public servants who are but puppets to a corporate elite of financially leveraged groups and individuals who have figured out how to monopolize and exploit those of us that are here. It's not right, it's not fair, it's extremely costly, it's no way for us to hand over this world to the next generation. So we as a people need to figure out how we can get together, how we can reset this democracy to make some sense, to put limits on politicians who become accountable for what they do and are transparent in all of their actions, and understand that their role in being public servants is to protect the rights of each individual as a sovereign person, and that the enemy of that individual sovereign person is the corporate groups with leverage and with business ethics who want to exploit and monopolize and take as much as they can for themselves with no ethics involved with who the people that they are hurting in the process, and that's all of us. So here's an opportunity to recognize how corrupt things are, because the best plant on the planet is restricted from access by politicians who want to protect financial interests, and I don't care that they're killing people in the process. So yeah, that's going on, folks, and that's just how corrupt it is. So this is an opportunity to understand that, and this is an opportunity to try to find the ways to make a difference in changing that, so that we don't let this continue to escalate towards the corporate agenda, where we are all going to be more and more enslaved with less and less rights, and that we need to move it in a different direction, where those politicians become the buffer between us and the corporate elite, where their job is to stop them from exploiting and monopolizing and taking advantage of the weak. So hopefully we can do that. I hope you're all on the journey with me, trying to figure out where your niche can be and what you can do. We can all play a part here. We all have different passions, different understandings, different skills, and whatever you can bring to the table, whatever is the area of corruption that you would like to help address, one person can make a difference. That person can be you. And eventually down the road, you can be looking at change that was made because of efforts that you did. And that's a very, very powerful thing to do as a human being. I recommend you all try it. And if we all try it, and we all get addicted to it, and we all start just being people that help make the world a better place, well, we're going to hand over the world in better shape than we got it. And I think that's the only thing we can really do as human beings, is leave a place better than we arrived in it. Let's all try to do that. So while you're doing that, be careful, stay safe, stay sane, use love and not fear, be kind to yourself and everyone around you, and always, always the most important thing, have as much fun as you can.